The rain hammered the church roof like fists on a coffin lid, drowning out the eulogies as if God himself refused to listen. Brandon Hayes stood at the edge of the parking lot, soaked to the bone, his black suit clinging like a second skin of regret, watching his father's casket lower into the earth from afar, because no one had the guts to tell the ushers he wasn't welcome inside. And then, the whisper from a cousin's lips cut sharper than the wind. "Your dad's rolling in his grave right now, Bran, because of him." Brandon had always known the Hayes family tree was rotten at the roots, but he'd spent 28 years pruning the branches, hoping sunlight might break through. Growing up in the sprawling suburbs of Cincinnati, Ohio, where cornfields bled into cul-de-sacs and every backyard barbecue hid a Bible under the grill, he'd learned early to smile through the sermons. His father, Harlan Hayes, was the king of that kingdom, a stern auto parts magnate with calloused hands from factory floors and a voice like gravel under tires. Harlan had built an empire from rusted Chevys and small-town grit, preaching self-reliance from the pulpit of his Sunday school class, where love thy neighbor meant everyone looked the same, talked the same, loved the same. Brandon was the glitch in the code. At 16, he'd stolen glances at the quarterback in gym class, his heart pounding harder than the locker room echoes. By 18, he'd buried it under layers of flannel and football cheers, dating the prom queen because her laughter drowned out the questions. College at Ohio State was supposed to fix him. Frat parties, keg stands, a string of girls whose names blurred like rain on a windshield. But the mirror didn't lie, and neither did the ache when he finally typed "Am I gay?" into a browser at 3 a.m., the screen's glow illuminating a dorm room that smelled of stale pizza and unspoken fears. He came out at 22, over Thanksgiving turkey in the Hayes dining room, the words tumbling out like spilled gravy. "Dad, I'm gay." Harlan's fork had frozen midair, turkey juice dripping onto the linen cloth his mother had starched that morning. The silence stretched, broken only by the tick of the grandfather clock. Then Harlan stood, chair scraping like a verdict, and said, "This family's built on foundations. Boy, you just cracked him." No yelling, no disownment that night, just a cold shoulder that turned to ice over the years. Phone calls dwindled to Christmas cards with Harlan's signature scrawled like a death warrant. Brandon's mother, Evelyn, sent secret care packages, homemade jerky, notes in her looping script saying prayers and love, son. But Harlan, he built a wall higher than the Ohio River levees. Now, Harlan was gone, heart attack at 68, clutching his chest in the dealership office, surrounded by salesmen who called 911 too late. The obituary in the Cincinnati Enquirer painted him as a pillar, beloved husband, father, community leader. No mention of the son he'd erased. Brandon flew in from Chicago, where he'd carved out a life as a graphic designer for a mid-tier ad agency, sharing a shoebox apartment with houseplants and half-read novels. He'd booked the red eye, heart thumping with a mix of grief and dread, only to get the call from his sister, Rebecca, as he landed. "Don't come to the church, Bran. Dad's wishes. The family's. Traditional. The word tasted like ash. So there he was, exiled to the periphery, mud sucking at his loafers as the mourners filed out in their modest sedans and Tahoes. Rebecca emerged last, her blonde bob impeccable even in the drizzle, clutching a black umbrella like a shield. She was 32, married to an accountant named Todd who tithed double to the church, 2 kids already programmed for purity rings. "Bran," she hissed, glancing over her shoulder at the ants clustering like crows. "You shouldn't be here." Pastor said. Pastor said what? That Dad's ghost can't handle rainbow flags. Brandon's voice cracked, rain mixing with the hot sting in his eyes. He hadn't cried yet. Not for the man who'd taught him to fish on the Little Miami River, baiting hooks with stories of real men who'd stormed Normandy. But the ban? It was the final cut, severing the last thread. Rebecca's lips thinned, the family resemblance stark in her jawline. "It's not me." "Everyone." Uncle Ray's leading the charge. "Says you're a scandal waiting to drop." Uncle Ray, Harlan's brother, the one who'd once jokingly suggested conversion therapy over beers. Brandon laughed, bitter and hollow, the sound lost in the downpour. "Tell them I said goodbye, then." To the man who couldn't say it himself, he turned to leave, boots sloshing through puddles that mirrored the gray sky, when a hand caught his elbow, gentle, unexpected. "Mr. Hayes," a man in his late 30s, salt and pepper hair slicked back against the rain, extended a damp business card. Black suit, wire-rimmed glasses fogged at the edges, a quiet authority in his stance. "Elliot Grant, family attorney. Your father." He left instructions. For after, Brandon stared, the card blurring in his grip. Grant and Associates. Estate planning. After? Like, what? Posthumous lecture on Leviticus. Elliot's smile was a flicker, professional but kind. More like a reading. "Tomorrow, 2 p.m. My office in Blue Ash." "Important you come." He hesitated, eyes scanning Brandon's face as if reading subtext. Harlan was insistent. "No proxies." Rebecca hovered, umbrella tilting like a guillotine. "Elliot, really? Dad wouldn't." But the lawyer was already retreating to his Lincoln, leaving Brandon with a soaked card and a hook in his gut. What game was this? Harlan's last jab? Or something softer, buried under the bluster? That night, Brandon holed up in a Holiday Inn off I-71, the room smelling of industrial cleaner and regret. He scrolled through old photos on his phone. Harlan at Brandon's high school graduation, arms slung proud around his shoulders. Fishing trips where the elder Hayes would ruffle his hair and say, "You're my legacy. Kid, don't screw it up." The ache bloomed, raw and relentless. He texted his best friend back in Chicago, Mia, a fiery lesbian who dragged him to his first pride. Funeral sucked. Banned like a bad sequel. "Will reading tomorrow. Pray for me." Her reply pinged instant. "Burn the will. Then burn the town. Love you, bitch." He chuckled, but it died quick. Sleep came fitful, dreams of caskets cracking open to spit accusations. Morning broke slate gray, the Ohio chill seeping through the motel vents. Brandon dressed in his funeral suit, now wrinkled and grave-scented, and drove the rental Hyundai to Blue Ash, a polished business district where glass towers mocked the Rust Belt ghosts. Grant and Associates occupied the third floor of a brick low-rise, all leather chairs and abstract art that screamed, "We handle your mess discreetly." The waiting room was empty save for a receptionist with a bob like Rebecca's, typing furiously. "Mr. Hayes, they're ready." She led him down a hall lined with law books, to a conference room where the family waited like a jury. Rebecca and Todd, Uncle Ray with his florid cheeks and bow tie, Aunt Lydia dabbing at dry eyes with a lace hanky. No mom. Evelyn had passed 5 years back from cancer, her final whisper to Brandon. "Be brave, My boy. For both of us. They nodded stiffly as he entered, the air thick with unspoken verdicts. Elliot Grant stood at the head of the table, a manila folder in hand, his glasses perched like a scholar's shield. Thank you for coming, Brandon. Let's begin. The reading unfolded like a slow autopsy. Harlan's assets. The dealership to Uncle Ray. The lake house to Rebecca. Stocks divvied like poker chips. Murmurs rippled. Grumbles from Ray about ungrateful heirs. A sigh from Rebecca as Todd squeezed her hand. Brandon sat silent, tracing the table's grain, bracing for the omission that would seal his exile. Then Elliot cleared his throat, voice steady as a gavel. And to my son, Brandon Michael Hayes. The room inhaled sharp, a collective freeze like breath held underwater. Uncle Ray's fork, wait. No, they weren't eating. It was his pen, clattering to the wood. Rebecca's eyes widened. Todd's jaw slackened. Aunt Lydia whispered, Harlan. No. Elliot continued, unflinching. I leave the family home on Elmwood Drive, free and clear, along with my collection of vintage tools in the garage, and a trust fund of $250,000, to be disbursed upon his 30th birthday. It's the least I owe the boy who carried my name, even when I couldn't carry his truth. The words hung, heavier than the rain outside. Brandon's pulse thundered in his ears, the world narrowing to the paper Elliot slid across. Harlan's script, looped and deliberate, dated a month before the heart attack. For Brandon, build something real. Love. Dad. Love. The word Harlan had choked on for years, now inked eternal. Uncle Ray erupted first, chair shoving back with a screech. This is a goddamn farce. Harlan was coerced. Senile? Probably. That house is the heart of the family legacy. His face purpled, veins bulging like Ohio creeks in flood. Rebecca stared at her lap, knuckles white on Todd's sleeve, torn between blood and belief. Elliot raised a hand, calm as a referee. The will is ironclad. Raymond. Witnesses. Notarized. Harlan called me the week before he passed. Said it was time to square the ledger. Brandon's throat burned, tears hot and unbidden. Square the ledger? After the silence. The ban? He wanted to scream, to shatter the glass walls with the weight of it all. Instead, he stood, chair polite in its scrape. I don't want it. The house, the money, give it to the church or whatever St. Ray's praying to. But tell me why. Why now? The room fractured then, voices overlapping in a cacophony of accusation and defense. Ray lunged for the folder, Todd pulling him back with a muttered easy. Man. Rebecca finally met Brandon's gaze, her eyes wet. He changed, Bran. At the end. Mom's old letters. He read them all after she died. Kept one in his wallet. Love him fierce, Harlan. He's yours. The revelation landed like a gut punch, softening the edges of betrayal. Harlan, the unyielding patriarch, cracking under grief's hammer. But the family, they weren't ready. Ray stormed out, muttering about contests and that lifestyle poison. Lydia followed, clutching pearls. Rebecca lingered, hugging Brandon quick and fierce. Take the house. Make it yours. For him, alone with Elliot, Brandon sank into a chair, the fight draining like storm water. He knew. About the funeral, Elliot nodded, packing files with methodical grace. He did. Insisted on the ban, said it was to protect you from the ugliness. But the will, that was his apology. Off the record, your father was a complicated man. Loved you in the ways he knew how. Complicated. The word echoed as Brandon drove back to the motel, the city lights smearing like accusations. He checked out, pointing the Hyundai east toward Chicago, but detoured on impulse Elmwood Drive. The address burned into memory. The house loomed colonial and proud, porch light flickering like a hesitant welcome. He parked curbside, rain easing to mist, and just sat, staring at the windows where he'd once pressed his face to watch fireflies. A figure moved on the lawn, trim, shadowy, clipping hedges with shears that glinted under street lamps. The neighbor? Brandon hadn't seen him before, but something in the fluid grace pulled him out of the car. "Hey," he called, voice rough. "You the welcoming committee?" The man straightened, wiping brow with a forearm, revealing a face carved from quiet strength. High cheekbones, hazel eyes catching the light, a jaw dusted with evening stubble. Mid-30s, maybe, in faded jeans and a flannel shirt rolled to elbows. "Depends. You look like you've seen a ghost." "Or 10. Brandon laughed, surprising himself. "Something like that. I'm Brandon. Hayes. The prodigal, I guess." The man extended a hand, calluses rough against Brandon's palm. "Nicholas Reed. Live next door. Your dad. He was a good neighbor. Lent me his lawnmower once. Never asked for it back." Nicholas's grip lingered a beat, warm in the chill, eyes searching with an openness that felt dangerous. They talked then, under the dripping oaks, about Harlan's garden gnomes, tasteless but loyal, the river floods of '93, the way Cincinnati hid its heart under football fever. Nicholas was a high school English teacher, divorced from a woman who'd loved the idea of me more than the man. His words laced with dry wit that cut the night's edge. No rings, no kids, just a rescue mutt named Scout and a stack of dog-eared Kerouac on his nightstand. As the mist thickened, Nicholas tilted his head. "You sticking around? House could use airing out." "And company." Brandon hesitated, the will's weight in his pocket like a key to a cage. "Maybe. Got some ghosts to evict first." Nicholas smiled, slow and knowing. "Ghosts hate vacuuming. Call me if you need backup." He jotted his number on a torn envelope, pressing it into Brandon's hand. Their fingers brushed electric, unspoken, and Brandon drove away with a spark in his chest, the first warmth since the rain. Back in Chicago 2 days later, the skyline mocked him with its indifference, Lake Michigan churning gray under November clouds. Work piled up, logos for craft breweries, taglines for realtors promising dream homes to straight-laced families. Mia dragged him to a dive bar that weekend, all neon buzz and drag queens lip-syncing Gaga. "Spill. Haze," she demanded over IPAs, her pixie cut dyed electric blue. "Ohio didn't eat you alive?" He told her everything, the ban, the will, the frozen faces, Nicholas's hazel eyes. Mia hooped, clinking glasses. Plot twist. Dead dad drops inheritance bomb. Hot neighbor drops in. You're living a rom-com, minus the montage. But it wasn't funny in the quiet hours, when doubt crept in like fog off the lake. Emails from Rebecca, Ray's contesting. Says you're unfit. Fight it. Texts from unknown numbers, church ladies, probably repent, son. For Harlan's soul. And the house, sitting empty, a monument to what-ifs. 2 weeks blurred into deadlines and denial, until a package arrived, Harlan's tools, shipped from the estate, each hammer wrapped in oilcloth, a note from Elliot tucked inside. He wanted you to have these. Build, Brandon. Attached was a photo, faded Polaroid of father and son, knee-deep in the river, Harlan's arm around Brandon's shoulders, both grinning like the world was theirs. The dam broke then. Brandon sobbed on his kitchen floor, tools scattered like bones, the grief raw and retroactive. He called Nicholas that night, voice thick, "Hey, it's Brandon." From the porch light, Nicholas's laugh was easy, a bomb. "Porch light guy. What's up? I'm coming back. To the house. Need to figure this out." Pause. Then, "Good. I'll bring pizza." And Scout, he's a ghost hunter. The flight to Cincinnati felt like surrender. The descent over the river a homecoming laced with dread. Nicholas met him at the airport, Scout's tail wagging from the truck bed, pizza boxes steaming on the dash. "Figured you'd need fuel for exorcisms," Nicholas said, hazel eyes crinkling. They unloaded at Elmwood, the house creaking like an old friend. Pizza devoured on the living room floor, Harlan's recliner shrouded in sheets. Stories flowed. Nicholas's ex, a poet who left for greener muses. Brandon's Chicago flings, men who vanished like smoke. Laughter bridged the gaps. Touches accidental at first. A knee brush, a shared napkin, then deliberate. Fingers lingering on a label. By midnight, sheets stripped, the room aired with ghosts dancing in dust motes. Nicholas stood to leave, but Brandon caught his wrist. "Stay. Just stay." Their first kiss was tentative, tasting of pepperoni and possibility. Soft under the hallway bulb, Harlan's old coat rack watching like a sentinel. Nicholas pulled back, breath ragged. "This okay? With everything?" Brandon nodded, heart hammering. "More than. It's the first real thing in years." They tumbled into the guest room, bodies mapping new territories, gentle explorations, whispers in the dark. Nicholas's hands were steady, tracing scars Brandon didn't know he had. Brandon's lips found the hollow of Nicholas's throat, eliciting gasps like poetry recited. It was romance unhurried, emotional in its honesty, no rush, just two men reclaiming space from the shadows. Morning brought coffee and clarity, Scout begging for crusts. "What now?" Nicholas asked, mug steaming, legs tangled on the couch. Brandon glanced at the tools on the workbench, Harlan's legacy gleaming. "I fight for this. The house, the truth, and maybe us." Nicholas's smile was a promise. "Us sounds good." But Ray's truck just pulled up. Round one. Uncle Ray's arrival shattered the fragile peace like a brick through stained glass. The old Ford F-150 rumbled to a halt, gravel spitting under tires, Ray unfolding from the cab like a storm cloud with legs. He was Harlan's mirror, broad-shouldered, ruddy-faced, but where Harlan's eyes held hidden depths, Ray's burned with the fire of a man who'd never questioned his pulpit. Flanking him was cousin Derek, Ray's eldest, a lanky 20-something with a buzz cut and a Bible app perpetually open on his phone. "Brandon," Ray bellowed, boots stomping up the porch steps, Derek trailing with a manila envelope clutched like a talisman. "We need to talk. Now." Brandon met them at the door, Nicholas a quiet shadow behind, Scout's low growl vibrating the floorboards. The air crackled with Ohio autumn, crisp leaves swirling, the river's distant murmur a reminder of floods past. Uncle, to what do I owe the pleasure? Come to repossess the gnomes. Ray's laugh was bark without mirth, eyes narrowing at Nicholas. Who's the stray? You're. +1. The word dripped disdain, laced with implications that made Derek shift uncomfortably. Nicholas Reed, Brandon said evenly, stepping aside but not inviting. Neighbor. Friend. And you know damn well why you're here. Ray thrust the envelope forward, papers rustling like accusations. Petition to contest. You're unfit, lifestyle's a liability. Harlan was manipulated. Last-minute nonsense from a man on his way out. The house stays in the family. Real family. Nicholas tensed, hand brushing Brandon's back, a subtle anchor. Brandon snatched the papers, scanning legalese that blurred with rage. Unfit? That's rich. Coming from the guy who once called Mom a Jezebel for wearing red lipstick. Dad wrote this lucid. Witnessed. It's done. Derek piped up, voice earnest as a youth group leader. It's not personal, Bran. It's principle. Dad Ray says the church needs the property for a youth center. Save souls like, well, yours. The condescension landed like a slap, but Brandon held steady, channeling the river's unyielding flow. Save souls? Tell that to the will. Or better yet, tell Dad's ghost. He chose me. Ray's face mottled, fist clenching. He chose wrong. Pity party ends now. Sign over the deed, or we drag this to court. Your reputation? Shredded like confetti at a fag parade. The slur hung, ugly and intimate, freezing the moment. Nicholas stepped forward, voice low thunder. That's enough. Get off his porch. Ray sneered, sizing him up. And who's gonna make me? Your boyfriend's bodyguard. Brandon's blood boiled, but before he could swing, metaphorically or otherwise, tires crunched again. Rebecca's minivan, Todd at the wheel, kids buckled in the back like unwilling witnesses. She spilled out, skirt swishing, marching up with purpose. Ray, what the hell? I told you to cool it. Stay out. Becky, Ray growled. This is men's business. Men's? Like the ones who banned their own brother from a funeral. Rebecca's eyes flashed, a haze fire long banked. She turned to Brandon, apologetic. He ambushed me on the way home from preschool pickup. Said he was handling it. I'm sorry. Todd hovered, awkward in khakis, herding the kids toward the swing set. Let's not do this in front of. But Ray was a freight train, derailing. You two? Siding with the sinner? Harlan spinning. Rebecca wheeled on him, voice steel. Harlan was my father too, and he made his choice. Back off, or I'll testify against you myself. The standoff teetered, Ray's bluster against Rebecca's resolve, Derek's fidgeting tipping the scale. Finally, Ray spat on the lawn, petty punctuation. This ain't over, boy. Court's coming. He stomped to his truck, Derek scrambling after, engine roaring them away in a diesel cloud. The porch sagged with silence. Then Rebecca hugged Brandon fierce, whispering, proud of you. Call if you need me. She drove off, leaving the air scented with exhaust and unresolved sins. Nicholas exhaled, rubbing Brandon's shoulders. You okay? Brandon leaned into him, the contact grounding. Yeah. Pissed. But. Yeah. Thanks for having my back. Always. Nicholas's lips brushed his temple, soft as forgiveness. Now, coffee or bourbon? Harlan's stash is legendary. They chose bourbon, settling in the kitchen where sunlight slanted through gingham curtains Evelyn had sewn. The amber liquid burned smooth, stories loosening like knots. Nicholas shared fragments. Growing up in rural Kentucky, where queer was both curse and cloak, coming out at 25 to parents who prayed harder but hugged tighter in the end. Lost friends. Gained mirrors. You. Brandon swirled his glass, ice clinking like chimes. Dad's love was conditional, fish on the line, but cut if I slipped. Mom was the bridge. After she died, I ran to Chicago. Thought distance fixed fractures. Nicholas nodded, eyes deep wells. It doesn't. But time and people. His hand covered Brandon's, thumb tracing veins. They mend. The moment stretched, intimate, until Scout barked at a squirrel, shattering it. They laughed, tension ebbing, and spent the afternoon reclaiming the house, airing closets thick with mothballs, scrubbing counters etched with knife scars from family dinners past. Nicholas found Harlan's old radio in the attic, tuning it to classic rock, Springsteen wailing about highways and heartaches. They danced clumsy in the living room, Brandon's head on Nicholas's shoulder, the world narrowing to two bodies swaying. But evening brought shadows. Brandon's phone buzzed. Elliot. Ray filed. Hearing in 2 weeks. Prep affidavits. Then Mia. Church flyers circulating. Save Elmwood from sin. You're viral in Ohio hell. He showed Nicholas, the flyers' grainy scans of pious faces picketing the house in spirit. Great. Now I'm the villain in a Pat Robertson reboot. Nicholas pulled him close, breath warm on his neck. Villain? Nah. You're the hero. And heroes get sequels. They made love again that night. Slower, deeper, bodies a language of reassurance. Gasps mapping vulnerabilities. Nicholas's whispers. You're enough, Bran. Just you, echoed Harlan's hidden note, stitching wounds neither knew bled. The next days blurred into battle prep. Rebecca rallied, digging up old emails from Harlan. Tell Bran I'm proud. Mechanic's hands like mine. She testified in mock runs over tea, her lawyer husband Todd surprisingly sharp on precedents. Bigamy cases set bars for unfit. You're golden. Nicholas integrated seamless, grading papers at the kitchen table. Scout curled at his feet, cooking chili that simmered like comfort. Stories of students who'd come out in essays, brave as hell. One evening, as frost etched windows, he broached it. This fight. It's yours. But if you want me in the ring, Brandon kissed him, fierce. You're already there. Ringside. Maybe. But yeah, partner. The word hung sweet, romantic in its weight. They drove to the river at dusk. Harlan's spot, casting lines into the current. No bites. But the quiet was bounty, hands linked, stars pricking the indigo sky. What if we lose? Brandon murmured, hook glinting. Nicholas reeled in slow. Then we build elsewhere. But we won't. Not with you fighting like this. Back home. The phone rang, unknown Cincinnati number. Brandon answered wary. Hayes. Brandon? It's Lydia. Your aunt. Her voice quavered. Lace hanky fragility. Ray's gone too far. The flyers. I tore them down myself. Harlan wouldn't want this. Shock rippled. Aunt LYD? You. Okay? A pause. Then soft. No. But I'm trying. Come for pie tomorrow? Neutral ground. He agreed, hanging up with a fist pump. Nicholas whooped, spinning him in a hug. Allies, the revolution spreads. But betrayal brewed darker. That night, as they scrolled case law on the laptop, a text from Derek pinged Brandon's phone. Sorry about Dad. But there's more. Dad found letters. Mom's. To you. Incriminating. Attached. Scans. Evelyn's script. My dearest Bran. Love who you love. God made you perfect. Brandon's stomach dropped. Incriminating? This is beautiful. What? Another text. Ray's using them. Says Mom influenced the will. Proof of manipulation. The knife twisted. Evelyn. Sainted in death. Weaponized by blood. Nicholas cursed low, pulling Brandon close. Bastards. We'll counter. Show the love, not the lie. Sleep evaded. The house creaking confessions. Dawn found them plotting. Affidavits from Lydia, perhaps, digging deeper into Harlan's final months. But the seed of doubt sprouted, family, fractured further, betrayals bloom. The hearing loomed, a storm front on the horizon. Brandon walked the neighborhood at noon, leaves crunching underfoot, Nicholas's hand in his talisman. Kids biked past, waving, misses. Kowalski from the corner offered Kalaksky through her screen door. Cincinnati's underbelly, grit and grace, reminded him. Roots ran deep, even in cracked soil. Yet as they returned, a shadow lingered, Ray's truck idling blocks away, watching. The game escalated, pieces moving unseen. The courthouse in downtown Cincinnati squatted like a concrete behemoth, its halls echoing with the footfalls of the damned and the determined. Brandon arrived early, suit pressed sharp, Nicholas at his side in a blazer that hugged his frame just right, support without stealing spotlight. Rebecca waited in the lobby, fidgeting with her necklace. Todd dispatched to daycare duty. Lydia's inside, she whispered, nodding to the benches. First witness. Ray's fuming. Aunt Lydia looked smaller in the fluorescent glare, her pearls a noose, but her chin lifted as she spotted Brandon. Nephew, a hug, brief but bone-crushing. For Evelyn. And Harlan. The courtroom was a wood-paneled time capsule. American flag drooping in the corner. Judge's bench elevated like Judgment Day. Ray sat front row. Derek beside him. A phalanx of church deacons in ill-fitting suits lending moral muscle. The judge. A no-nonsense woman named Hargrove with silver streaks and a gavel like Thor's. Called order sharp at 10 a.m. Elliot Grant presented first. Voice a scalpel dissecting the will's sanctity. Mr. Harlan Hayes was of sound mind. Your Honor. Medical records. Witness statements. Undeniable. He entered exhibits. Doctor's notes from the final checkup. Harlan's shaky but clear signature. Ray's attorney. A slick weasel named Hargis from a firm that reeked of tobacco lobbyists. Countered oily. Coercion. Your Honor. Emotional duress. The decedent's widow, God rest her, corrupted the process with her. Progressive views. He flourished the letters. Evelyn's words projected on a screen. Love is love. Harlan. Let Brandon be. Gasps rippled. Rebecca's hand flying to her mouth. Lydia dabbing eyes. Brandon's nails dug crescents into palms. Nicholas's knee pressed his under the table. steady as oak. Hargis hammered. Mrs. Hayes, deceased, was known for unorthodox beliefs, influenced the will unduly, and the beneficiary, a pause, dramatic, openly homosexual, a lifestyle incompatible with family values. Unfit heir. The word homosexual landed like a relic from the 80s, clinical and cruel. Murmurs swelled. Judge Hargrove banged gavel. Counsel. Relevance. Orientation has no bearing on testamentary capacity. Hargis backpedaled smooth. Moral fitness. Your honor. The estate's legacy. Legacy is what the deceased defines, Hargrove snapped. Not busybodies. Lydia took the stand next, voice quavering but true. Harlan loved that boy. Called him my right hand in the garage. Those letters? Evelyn's heart on paper. Not poison, prayer. She met Ray's glare unflinching. You're twisting her memory, Raymond. Shame on you. Ray shifted. Deacon's whispering. Then Rebecca, composed in her cardigan armor. Dad changed. After Mom. He'd say, Becky, life's too short for walls. The will was his wall coming down. Cross-examination probed gentle, Hargis's barbs glancing off. But the climax brewed with Harlan's old mechanic. Gus, a grizzled vet with grease under nails eternal. Boss man called me a week before. Said, Gus, if I go, make sure Brand's set. Kids got my fight. Gus's eyes, watery, locked on Brandon. He fought for you, son. In his way, tears pricked. Nicholas squeezed his hand, hidden. The defense rested strong, but Hargis called rebuttal. A pastor, Brother Ellis, droning on biblical inheritance. Then Ray himself, voluminous, venomous. Harlan was a godly man. This deviance twisted him. I saw the letters, witchcraft, plain. Family's mine to protect. Hargrove's brow furrowed. Mr. Hayes, your brothers will supersede your opinions. Step down. Recess hit like a lifeline. Coffee in the hall. Lydia pressing cookies into palms. It's going our way, Elliot murmured. Nicholas pulled Brandon aside, thumb brushing his jaw. You're holding the line. Proud. The kiss was chaste. Hallway quick, but it fueled. Afternoon brought closing. Elliot's eloquence a river carving stone. Hargis's bluster eroding. Judge Hargrove adjourned for deliberation. 48 hours. And the courtroom emptied in a hush. Outside, Ray cornered them on the steps. Deacons hovering like hyenas. You think this ends it? Church'll boycott the dealership. Watch Ray Hayes auto bleed. Brandon stepped forward. Voice steel. Bleed? Like you bled Dad's memory? Walk away, Uncle. Or the next petitions for defamation. Ray's laugh was hollow. Boy, you ain't family no more. Nicholas's arm slipped around Brandon's waist. Public, defiant. He's more than you ever were. The deacons gasped. Ray sputtered, retreating to his F-150. Rebecca exhaled. That was... wow. Nicely played. Lydia linked arms with Brandon. Dinner tonight? My meatloaf. Harlan's recipe. They went, house aglow with candles, stories flowing like wine. Lydia confessed. Ray's bitter since his wife left. Blames society. But Harlan? He whispered to me in the hospital. Tell Brand sorry. For the quiet. Tears fell. Shared, the table a circle of mending. Nicholas fit seamless. Charming tales from Austin to Whitman, his hand on Brandon's knee a constant hum. Driving home, river road winding, Brandon turned. "You didn't have to out us like that," Nicholas shrugged, stars reflecting in his eyes. "Felt right. And hell, if we're fighting, might as well fight visible." Home welcomed with scouts' joy, fire crackling in the hearth Harlan installed. They made love by its glow passionate, unhurried, bodies a testament to survival. Nicholas's murmurs, "I see you, Bran. All of you," wove through, romantic threads binding. But dawn brought the call. "Elliot, terse. Hargrove ruled in our favor. Preliminary will stands. Ray can appeal, but it's uphill." Elation surged. Brandon hooped, tackling Nicholas in bed. "We did it." "Not yet," Nicholas cautioned, but his grin betrayed thrill. "Celebrate anyway?" They did brunch at a riverside cafe. Mimosas bubbling, Rebecca and Lydia toasting. Texts flew. Mia's sleigh. King. Derek's hesitant congrats. Dad's pissed. But good for you. Yet victory soured subtle. That afternoon, unpacking Harlan's attic, Brandon unearthed a box. Letters, yellowed, addressed to Evelyn from a Chicago return, and signed, "Fervent. My love, the city devours me without you. But our boy, he's the light." Postmarks from the 90s, when Harlan traveled for parts. Heart stuttering, Brandon pieced it. An affair? Mom's knowing eyes. Dad's late nights. Nicholas found him there, dust-moted. "What is it?" "Betrayal," Brandon whispered, papers trembling. "Dad cheated. With a man." Nicholas knelt, reading over shoulder. "Or loved." Before he buried it, the revelation cracked open Harlan anew. Not monster, but man, caged by era's iron. He knew, Brandon realized. That's why the will. The quiet. He understood. Grief and grace mingled, tears cathartic. Nicholas held him through it, whispers a litany, "Doesn't change you. Or us." Evening brought storm, literal, thunder rumbling as they walked the yard, lightning etching oaks. Ray's appeal loomed, but so did truth's weight. "What now?" Brandon asked, rain kissing skin. Nicholas pulled him close, soaked and sure. "Now, we live." Loud. The appeal hearing dragged into December, snow blanketing the courthouse like absolution. Ray doubled down, hauling in experts, a psychologist peddling reparative therapy bunk, dismissed by Hargrove as quackery. Witnesses flipped. Gus recanted nothing, but a deacon cracked, admitting pressure from Ray. Brandon testified last, voice steady, eyes on the judge. "Dad wasn't perfect. Hurt me with silence. But he tried. At the end. This house is not bricks. It's forgiveness. Taking it away, that's the real theft." Hargrove nodded. Subtle. Closing arguments peaked. Eliot's poetry versus Hargis's prose of prejudice. Adjournment again, verdict post-holiday. Christmas Eve. Elmwood glowed. Lights strung by Nicholas. Tree felled from the backyard. Ornaments Evelyn's. Rebecca brought kids. Chaos joyful. Lydia. Pie and peace. No Ray. But a card arrived. "Merry Christmas, Bran. Think on it." Derek. They feasted. Sang carols off-key. Scouts stealing bows. Midnight mass skipped, too fraught, but under mistletoe. Nicholas kissed Brandon deep, family whoops echoing. "Love you," he murmured, first time voiced. Brandon's heart swelled. "Love you back." Boxing Day brought the call. Dismissed. Will final. Congratulations. Triumph tasted bittersweet. Victory over venom. But the family fracture permanent? Ray vanished. Dealership whispers of sale. Brandon claimed the house. Trust fund a cushion for dreams deferred. Renovations began. Walls knocked for light. Garden revived. Nicholas stayed weekends. Then weeks, job transfer to a Cincinnati school. Closer to the river, he joked. Romance deepened. Picnics on the Little Miami, where Harlan taught casts. Lazy Sundays with Kerouac readings. Bodies entwined. But conflict simmered. Spring unearthed more. Harlan's journal. Hidden in the workbench. Entries raw, boys like me hidden. God, forgive us both. Betrayal reversed. Harlan's secret life. Parallel pain. Brandon confronted the ghost one April dusk. Tools in hand. Building a bench by the river. "You got it wrong, Dad. But you tried." Wind whispered absolution. Nicholas found him there, picnic basket swinging. Talking to shadows? Learning from them. Brandon pulled him down. Kiss salty with river mist. Stay forever? Nicholas's eyes shone. Forever's my specialty. Summer unfurled in Cincinnati like a banner of reluctant hope. The Ohio humidity wrapping the city in a steamy embrace that mirrored the slow thaw in Brandon's chest. The house on Elmwood Drive transformed under their hands, walls painted sage green, evoking the river's bend, kitchen counters scarred anew with chop marks from shared meals. Nicholas's books lined the shelves, mingling with Harlan's tools, a quiet merger of worlds. Scout claimed the sun porch as his throne, tail thumping lazy rhythms to the cicada's chorus. But peace was a fragile bloom, petals edged with thorns. Ray's silence post-ruling was a vacuum, sucking in rumors. Dealership sold at a loss. Church whispers of judgment divine. Derek reached out sporadic, texts laced with apology. Dad's drinking heavy. Says sorry. Sorta. Brandon replied civil, but the scar tissue pulled tight. Work pulled Brandon between worlds, freelance booming from Chicago contacts. Trips east every other week for pitches. Miss you already? Nicholas murmured one departure. Lips lingering at the door. Coffee still warm on his breath. 2 days. Then river runs and revenge sex. Brandon teased. But the airport ache lingered. A low hum of what-ifs. One such trip, mid-July, sweltered into crisis. Mia called mid-layover. Bran, check the Inquirer site. Now, the headline screamed, Hayes Ayres scandal. Secret affair rocks legacy. Below, grainy photos, Brandon and Nicholas at the Pride Walk earlier that month. Arms linked under rainbow flags, juxtaposed with Evelyn's letters, twisted as illicit encouragements. Sourced anonymous, but Ray's fingerprints smeared the ink. Local pillar's son embraces controversy. Dragging family name through mud, the byline sneered. Fury ignited, hot and immediate. Brandon stormed the gate, red-eye booked, landing in Cincinnati at dawn's crack. Nicholas met him curbside, truck idling, face-etched worry. Saw it. Rebecca's livid, threatening libel. They drove home silent at first, radio murmuring baseball scores like white noise. Then Nicholas, this them, or you? Brandon's jaw clenched. Ray has to be digging graves instead of filling his own. The house felt besieged. Porch light on against shadows. Mail slot stuffed with hate. Abomination scrawled on postcards. Bible verses underlined vicious. Inside, laptop open to comments. Vitriol from faceless trolls. But gems too. Proud of you, local boy. Love wins. Rebecca arrived noon. Laptop in tow. Todd minding kids. Traced the leak. Derek's phone pinged near the paper's Dropbox. He's spiraling. Bran blames you for Dad's shame. Shame. Brandon paced. Fists balled. He leaked Mom's letters. Our pain. For clicks. Nicholas brewed tea. Steady hand on the storm. Sue. Or ignore. Your call. But ignoring was Harlan's legacy, silence as surrender. We fight, Brandon decided. Press conference. Our terms. Rebecca nodded fierce. I'll stand with you. The presser assembled hasty. Elmwood lawn. July sun baking the grass. Local outlets clustered with mics like vultures. Brandon at the podium, a repurposed picnic table. Nicholas beside, hand hidden but linked. Rebecca flanked. Lydia dabbing sweat with lace. Family's messy, Brandon began. Voice amplified clear. Mine more than most. Dad's will wasn't about money, it was apology. For love unspoken. Mom's letters? Not scandal. Testament. He held one aloft. Evelyn's script bold. To a son she cherished. And yeah, I'm gay. Proudly. With a man who makes this house a home. Nicholas's squeeze. Visible now, defiance shared. Questions flew. Regrets on the will? None. Dad chose grace. Family rift? Rebecca. Healing. Slow. A reporter. Sharp-eyed from the post. Uncle Raymond's involvement? Brandon met the lens. Call him. Ask why he'd bury love to build hate. The feed went viral. Midwest murmurs to national nods. Elmwood love trending. Mia texted fireworks emojis. Even Chicago clients buzzed support. But backlash bit. That night, tires slashed on Nicholas's truck. Slash marks deliberate. Sinner keyed in. Police report filed. But the chill seeped. Safety's illusion cracked. Nicholas paced the kitchen. Scout at heels. We leave? Or lock down? Brandon pulled him close. Heartbeat sync. Stay. This is ours now. Romance rekindled defiant. Candlelit dinner on the porch. Stars winking approval. Slow dances to Coltrane. Bodies pressed against fear. You're my anchor, Brandon whispered, lips tracing Nicholas's collarbone. And you're the storm I signed up for, Nicholas replied, hands roaming reverent. August brought counterpunch. Derek's call, voice slurred whiskey. Bran is bad. Dad's. He knows I leaked. Beat the shit out of me. Said I'm weak like you. Guilt twisted, blood calling to blood. Where are you? Motel off I-275. Don't tell Becky. Brandon went alone. Nicholas protesting but relenting. The motel reeked of despair. Faded carpet. Neon buzzing vacancy. Derek opened cracked. I swelling purple. Lip split. Heard the presser. You. Ballsy. Brandon entered wary. Handing ice from the machine. Why? Dex. The letters, Mom's soul. Derek sank to the bed. Head in hands. Dad's unraveling. After the sale, Church cut him off. Harlan's curse, they say. Pushed me to fix it. Thought it'd. I don't know. Earn points. Pity Ward with anger. You're better. Walk away. Derek's laugh broke wet. From what? Family's all I got. Then make your own. Brandon left cash. A burner number. Call if you need out. Driving home. River gleaming under moon. Brandon exhaled the weight. Nicholas waited porchlit. Arms open. Hero complex intact? Family's a drug, Brandon admitted, collapsing into embrace. Hard to quit. Nicholas kissed his temple. Then quit together. Or dose careful. September softened edges. Trial dates set for defamation. Ray subpoenaed. Renovations peaked. Sunroom addition. Windows framing the oaks. Nicholas's tenure track solidified. Evenings lesson planning to Brandon's sketches, Synergy Suite. One crisp eve. Bonfire in the pit Harlan built. They burned the hate mail. Flames devouring fag and repent. Marshmallows charred. Laughter rose. To ashes, Nicholas toasted. To rising, Brandon echoed. But betrayal's echo lingered. October court date loomed. Ray's deposition a minefield. Elliot prepped. He'll lie. Charm it out. The deposition room was sterile, depot table scarred, stenographer neutral. Ray arrived rumpled, eyes bloodshot. No deacons now. Let's get this farce over, he grunted, swearing in surly. Questions probed. Letter's origin? Evelyn's folly. Leak? Anonymous tip. Pure journalism. Then Elliot. Sly. And the tire slashing? Your truck's treads match the scene. Ray blanched. Coincidence. Or confession. Brandon interjected. Voice calm. Why hurt us? Uncle? For what? Pride. Ray's facade cracked. Voice raw. You took everything. Harlan's favor. The house. Left me the scraps. Scraps? Brandon leaned in. Dad chose me because he saw me. You? Blind with hate. Tears tracked Ray's cheeks. Unexpected. I loved him. Brother. More than. But he shut me out. After your mom died, he softened. For you. I couldn't. Revelation staggered. Ray's grief. Twisted to rage. Then let go, Brandon urged. Before it consumes you. Ray left silent. Deposition damning in pauses. Trial fast-tracked. But pre-verdict. Olive branch. Ray's letter. Hand-delivered by Derek. I was wrong. Bury the suit. For Harlan. Brandon waited porchside. Nicholas reading over. Trap? Or truce? Truce, Brandon decided. With conditions, therapy, distance, withdrawal filed, papers signed neutral ground, a diner off the interstate, Ray gaunt but eyes clear. Sorry, he muttered, handshake limp. Derek's moving west. Fresh start. And you, church. Reconsidering. Solo. No hugs. But a nod, humanity's thread. Frayed but intact. November chill nipped. Leaves gold pyres. Brandon and Nicholas hiked the river trail. Packs light. Hearts heavy with harvest. Year from hell, Brandon reflected. Hand in Nicholas's. Hell with highlights, Nicholas quipped. You, me. That's heaven adjacent. At the Bend, Harlan spot, they picnicked. Sandwiches, Evelyn's recipe. Talk turned dreams. Expand the house to studio. Brandon's designs. Nicholas's novel, Queer Tales for Midwest Kids. A sun dipped. Nicholas knelt. Ring box velvet. Marry me? Not for show. For us. Tears blurred. Brandon yes ed. Kiss ceiling. Forever. News spread gentle. Rebecca's squeal. Mia's flight booked. Lydia baked cake. Even Derek texted congrats from Reno. But climax crested Thanksgiving, family dinner. Tentative. Ray absent. But Derek came. Sober. Stories flowing. Toasts to Harlan. Complicated, but ours. Dessert done. Brandon slipped out to the garage. Tools gleaming. Nicholas followed. Ghost check. Brandon smiled. Pulling a box, Harlan's final gift. Unearthed. A locket. Engraved for my boys. Inside. Photo, young Harlan. Arm around a shadow man. Smile secret. Dad's truth, Brandon whispered. Nicholas hugged tight. Ours now. Winter wrapped Cincinnati in a hush of hoarfrost. The river freezing frilled edges like lace on a widow's cuff. The engagement ring. A simple band of hammered silver, sourced from a queer artisan in Chicago, caught the light as Brandon and Nicholas planned, not with checklists but dreams sketched on napkins. A spring wedding by the Little Miami, wildflowers and whiskey, guests a mosaic of chosen kin. Rebecca insisted on catering, Lydia on vows handwritten, Mia flew in monthly, drag auntie in training, armed with binders of gay wedding realness. But romance's glow cast long shadows, and December dredged the deepest cut yet. A letter arrived unmarked. Postmarked Cleveland, Evelyn's cousin, Aunt Clara, the family archivist who'd vanished post-funeral. Inside, brittle pages, Harlan's youth, scribbled confessions from the 70s. Met him at the factory dance, eyes like storms. Kissed under the elms. God, the guilt. Followed by clippings. A missing persons from 82. A man named Elias Reed, drowned in the Ohio. Presumed accident. Reed. Nicholas's surname hit like a rogue wave. Brandon's hands shook. Piecing timelines, Harlan's business trips, the locket's shadow man. Elias, Nicholas's uncle? Father? He confronted the mirror first. Reflection fractured. Then Nicholas. Home from parent-teacher nights. Flour-dusted from pie experiments. Babe? What's with the face? Brandon thrust the letter. Voice splinter. Elias Reed. Your family? Nicholas scanned. Color draining. Uncle Eli. Dad's brother. Vanished when I was 5. Drowned, they said. But Harlan, eyes widened, connecting. The trips. Dad, my dad hated Harlan. Called him that haze snake. Betrayal layered, Harlan's secret not just love, but loss. Tangled in Nicholas's bloodline. He knew, Brandon whispered. Loved him. Maybe drove him away. Nicholas paced. Anguish raw. Or saved him. Stories, Eli wild. Harlan steady. Maybe too steady. Cage closed. The revelation fractured their idyll. Nights tense with what-ifs. Does this change us? Nicholas asked one frostbitten eve. Fire dying low. Brandon cupped his face. Thumbs tracing jaw. Changes the past. Not this. But doubt seated Harlan's ghost. Now kinslayer? They dug. Library microfiche. Yellowed articles. Elias. Factory worker. Frequent visitor to Hayes residence. No charges. But whispers in obits. tragic end to a troubled soul. Clara called next, voice reedy over line. Harlan confessed before passing. To me, Elias. They loved fierce, young. Harlan panicked, married Evelyn to fix. Eli left, heartbroken. Drowned accidental, they think. Harlan carried it always, closure bitter as quinine. Nicholas wept silent, Brandon holding through. Your dad, Harlan, loved him. Like he tried with me. Nicholas nodded, spent. Legacy's loops. But we break it. Healing hummed slow therapy sessions in a Victorian office. Joint unpacking of inherited pains. Queer inheritance, the counselor quipped. Trauma's the heirloom. Laughter cracked the ice. Bonds reforged in vulnerability. Christmas bloomed redemptive. Tree laden with reed and haze ornaments unearthed. Dinner a potluck of histories. Rebecca brought Harlan's recipe cards. Derek, flown in, shared Reno tales, bartending, boyfriends tentative. Lydia lit Advent candles, toasting to loves lost and found. Noon mass skipped for home hymns, Springsteen on vinyl, voices blending off-key. Gifts unwrapped. For Brandon, Nicholas's novel draft, chapters queer and Cincinnati-soaked. For Nicholas, Brandon's sketch, two men by the river, wedding vows etched in waves. Then, the call, Ray, voice gravel grind. Heard about the ring. Congrats. And Eli. Clara told me. Harlan's burden. Pause heavy. Yeah, Brandon said. Yours too. Ray exhaled smoke. Always was. Come by, talk. The visit was uneasy. Ray's trailer on the outskirts. Christmas lights askew. Beer fridge humming. No hugs, but chairs pulled close. Harlan and Eli, Ray started, eyes distant. New whispers. Hated him, for weakness. But seeing you two, maybe strength. Words halting. But human therapy mentioned. Chips on the table. Won't be at the wedding, Ray admitted. Not ready. But peace. Brandon nodded, throat tight. Peace. Driving home. Snow flurrying. Nicholas squeezed his thigh. You gave him grace. Us, Brandon corrected. We. Spring wedding dawned golden. April 15th. Riverbank blooming dogwood. Chairs mismatched from thrift hunts. 50 guests. Mia in sequins, emceeing with flair. Rebecca matron of honor. Kids scattering petals wild. Derek best man. Toast heartfelt. To uncles known and not cheers. Vows exchanged barefoot in the shallows. Harlan's tools etched into rings. Brandon first. You saw me when shadows hid. Promise to light your darks. Always. Nicholas. Voice steady. You mended my fractures. Vow to build with you tools, truths, all. Kiss sealed. Crowd roaring. Fireworks over water. Whiskey toasts till dusk. Dance under strings lights. Springsteen again. Thunder Road. Arms tight. Honeymoon local, cabin upstate. Adirondacks calling kin. Days hike trails. Nights tangled sheets. Bodies a liturgy of yes. Mr. and Mr. Hayes Reed. Nicholas teased one dawn. Coffee steaming. Or Reed Hayes. Flip a coin. Love deepened domestic. Garden planted. Tomatoes twining like fingers. Nicholas's book deal inked. Queer lit for shelves empty too long. Brandon's studio bloomed. Designs for pride campaigns. murals for schools. Summer solstice. River picnic marked 1 year since the will. Box opened. Harlan's locket. Now shared, Elias's photo faded but fierce. To them, Brandon toasted. And us, Nicholas clinked bottles. Eternal. Fall brought bloom. Ray's letter. Wedding photo enclosed, proud. From afar. Derek visited. Partner in tow, tall. Tattooed. Fitting seamless. Climax crested quiet. One November night. Storm raging. Power out. Candles flickered. Scout huddled close. What if? Nicholas murmured. Thunder punctuating. We'd never met? Brandon traced his ring. Fate's got hooks. Like Dad's casts. Laughter peeled. Love's anchor. Years wove on, kids adopted. 2 boys with curls and questions. House expanded. Laughter echoing. Ray softened slow. Grandkids bridging. Harlan's grave visited yearly. Wildflowers laid. Love one. Dad. 50. Gray threading temples. Brandon and Nicholas River sat. Lines cast idle. Best catch? Nicholas asked. Hazel eyes unchanged. You, Brandon said. Real turning. Always. The line tugged, fish or fate. But they let it run. Hands linked. Current carrying forward. In America's heartland, where rivers bend but never break, 2 men built a legacy not of silence, but song. Dramatic in storms. Emotional in calms. Romantic in glances. Humanistic in grace. Human, after all.